Hey everyone, Mr. MCA here. This is a lap guide for the new lap time challenge taking place at Sardegna A with the Lexus LFA, and we're on the sports soft tires. Do be aware that this online time trial event only lasts 1 week, ending at the end of July 24, 2024, and this is because on the 25th of July, the new update will come out, which will introduce physics changes. So your goal is to get within the 3% time range of the world record time when the event ends, as that is when your lap time gets counted and hopefully you get the 2 million credits. On the bottom of the screen are the tags to my replays. I'll also leave a link to it in the description down below if you want to check it out. But now let's go on over to the lap guide, where I'm going to be honest, this was pretty fun. I thought it was going to be a bit annoying, especially Sardegna A, but I found it pretty fun, and hopefully you find it fun as well. Now, I will point out, as you're starting your new lap, you will need to brake for the final kink. So I'm using this sign on the left as my braking and turning point. So I'm only using around 25% braking power and then getting back on the throttle right as I hit the apex. And we will go through this corner again just as we're about to finish the lap. So here I am going to take a slightly weirder line where I'm not going to be all the way towards the right side of the track, and I'm going to brake well before the 150 meter board, so before the blue area on the right, full braking power, and quickly make your way down to second gear. You're going to use the end of the curb that is on the right as your turning point, and just as I start to turn in, you're going to ease off of the brakes, so doing a bit of trail braking. And as you hit the apex, shift up to third gear and then start to get back on the throttle. Now for this left turn coming up, I shift up to fourth gear right about here. So that little break where the car is shifting gears, the car will turn in a bit more, and if you time it just right, you'll be able to avoid touching the grass on the right. Now I'm going to stay on fourth gear, even hitting the rev limiter, because I'm going to brake shortly after the curb on the right starts, before the 50 meter board. So full braking power, and you're going to go down to third gear, turning in as the wall on the left starts. So you're going to start to ease off of the brakes, but you're going to stay towards the left because we have a right turn coming up right away. So bring yourself towards the left, and you're going to use this fence on the left as your braking point, and you're going to turn in shortly after. You're going to stay on third gear, and you want to be careful getting back on the throttle. That way you don't end up understeering onto the grass. So there you go, using that curb on the left. Now bring yourself towards the right. This turn is pretty tricky. You're going to brake right before you reach the 50 meter board. So brake in a straight line using full braking power. Shortly after you pass that 50 meter board, that's where you're going to start to turn in. Go down to third gear if you haven't done so yet, and start to ease off of the brakes as you're turning in. So doing a bit of trail braking, getting as close as you can to the wall on the left. Now do note that I slowly get back on the throttle, and I'm waiting until I'm about to point towards this wind turbine before I start to fully accelerate my way out. If you get on the throttle too early, you do risk having the car step out, which will cost you quite a bit of time as you go up the back straight. Yeah, we're going up the hill, so up the back straight. But anyways, brake at the 175 meter mark, so you are braking pretty early for this really sharp hairpin. Full braking power, and make your way down to second gear. You're going to turn in before the curb on the right ends, so this right here is where I start to turn in. And you want to be careful about turning in too early, because it is really easy to clip the wall on the left and get your lap time invalidated. You do want to be careful getting back on the throttle, because the car will step out if you are a little too aggressive getting back on the throttle. Now this is another tricky part. You can use this building on the left as your turning point. So right around here, this is where I start to turn in, lift off of throttle so you can bring yourself towards the right, then brake before the curb on the right ends. And you're going to be a full braking point for a really brief moment. Just after the barrier on the right starts, start to turn in, going down to third gear, and you want to carefully get back on the throttle to try to maintain your speed. Now for the final hairpin, not the final turn, but the final hairpin, you brake before the 100 meter board, and you actually want to brake just a hair bit earlier than where I start to brake, because I'm going to say that this is braking just a little too late. Turn in before the curb on the right ends and make sure you go down to second gear. So this is just like the previous hairpin where you want to be careful getting back on the throttle so the car doesn't step out too much. Now for the final kink, bring yourself towards the left, and just as I mentioned earlier, use this sign on the left as your braking and turning point. So you're using around 25% braking power and starting to turn in at the same time. Just as you hit the apex, that's where you want to start to get on the throttle, but do be careful about clipping the grass on the left, as that will cost you a bit of time. But now let's go through this again, but this time I will not stop the video. Alright, so here we are, still in chase cam. Bumper cam will come shortly after. Gonna brake pretty early for turn number 1, braking before the 150 meter board. Going down to second gear for more rotation, but exit on third gear. And you do want to be careful getting back on the throttle, as this car will step out, especially in the lower gears. Still stay on fourth gear even as I hit the rev limiter, and you want to bring yourself towards the left to set yourself up for this right turn. Just nice and careful getting back on the throttle so you don't step onto the grass on the left. Gonna brake before the 50 meter board, just before the 50 meter board. And yeah, this turn is pretty tricky, getting as close as you can to the wall. Nice and careful getting back on the throttle so the car doesn't step out too much. Now going up the back straight, because we are going up the hill. This left turn is easy flat out. Just be nice and gentle with your turn in. Brake at the 175 meter mark, going all the way down to second gear. And yeah, just be careful getting back on the throttle so your car can stay under control. Now this chicane coming up is a little tricky, so just as you start to turn in, lift off our throttle, brake before the curb on the right ends and go down to third gear. And you can use that little bit of sliding to your advantage to get the car pointing where you want to go. Then brake before the 100 meter board. Do be careful here, really easy to overshoot the final hairpin. This final kink, use the sign on the left as your braking and turning point, and you do want to be careful getting back on the throttle so you don't clip the grass on the left. And we'll go through this again one more time, but this time we will be in bumper cam. So this is for the folks that use bumper cam. So again, gonna brake pretty early for turn number 1. Gonna brake before the 150 meter board, go all the way down to second gear, back up to third gear as you exit the first turn. And yeah, you do want to be careful getting back on the throttle. This car does step out a bit, especially in the lower gear, so yeah, you do want to be careful about that. Brake before the 50 meter board, bringing yourself towards the left to set yourself up for this right turn. Still stay on third gear, nice and careful back on the throttle so you don't get onto the grass on the left. Brake right before the 50 meter board, and yeah, this turn is pretty tricky, really easy to clip the wall, so you do want to be careful with getting back on the throttle. And going up the back straight, because we are going up the hill. Nice and gentle turn right here so you can take a flat out. Brake at the 175 meter mark, so you are braking pretty early for this hairpin. Nice and careful getting back on the throttle, keep the car under control. And for the chicane coming up, it is a little tricky. What you want to do is when you turn in, lift off our throttle, brake before the curb on the right ends, shift down to third gear, and the car will slide around a little bit, but it will help you get the car pointing where you want to go. Then brake before the 100 meter board, and as I mentioned earlier, really easy to overshoot this hairpin, so yeah, you do want to be careful about braking too late. Final kink, use the sign on the left as your braking and turning point. You're only using around 25% braking power because you don't want to scrub off too much speed. But there we go. So with this, able to get into the 145s. So I'm pretty happy with this lap. So that's going to be all for me. So take care, and I'll see you in the next video.